Hello, and welcome back to How to Make a Game in Unity for Beginners. My name is Dustin, and last time what we did is we made it so that our main camera can follow around our player and just follow it. So what I want to do now is I want to give the player something to avoid. Um, so I'm going to create um, an object that if the player runs into it, it's going to kill off the player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click in the hierarchy. Actually, after I get out of play mode, I'm going to right click in the hierarchy, create a new 3D object, and we are going to use a cylinder. I'm going to reset the transform. I'm going to bring it up on the y-axis to 1.5 so that it's sitting directly on the ground. I'm going to rename this to enemy. Enemy. I'm going to drag this up in front of the player so we can see it. And I'm going to create a new material for it. I want to give it, we're going to call this enemy material, or enemy mat. We're going to change the color to like a darker grayish color and attach the material to our enemy. So now what I want to do is if we go into our, if we highlight our enemy in the hierarchy, come down to this capsule collider. Every 3D object basically has some sort of a collider, and what this does is it detects when something collides with the object. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a new C# script. We're going to call this enemy. So if we wait for it to compile, we can attach the script to our enemy here and open it up in Visual Studio. So what I want to do now is I'm not going to use the start or update functions at the moment. We're just going to go right below the update function and create a new function called private on collision enter. And if you just hit enter once that suggestion is highlighted for on collision enter, it'll automatically fill out the rest of this for us. This collision component that it's referencing is in reference to the other collider that's colliding to this object. So I'm going to call this other instead of collision, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say if other, actually if you don't know how I automatically filled all this out like that, all I did was I can type if and then hit tab twice, and it'll automatically fill in the rest of this if statement for me. So, and then I can just type other dot collider dot tag is equal to player. And what we did here is everything you can set a tag for. If we just go back into Unity really quick and go up to our player, and at the very top of the inspector, you'll see this section, this drop-down menu labeled tag. We can tag this player as a player. You can also tag, for instance, the camera as the main camera, game controller, so on and so forth. But we're going to tag this as player. So what this is saying is if the other collider's tag is player, and this needs to be spelled the same way that our tag is spelled, then we want to do this. So what do we want to do? We want to destroy that game object. So we can just type in destroy and in parentheses other dot game object. Just like that. So now if we go ahead and save this and go back into Unity, wait for it to compile and hit play, what's going to happen is when we run into this enemy cylinder, our player will die. Perfect. So Now what? We are stuck on this screen with no control over the game whatsoever. So what I want to do is whenever the player dies, I want him to respawn so that we can continue playing our game. There is a pretty simple way of doing that. If we go back into our script, what we can do is if we create, we're going to need a couple of variables up here. We're going to do a public float wait to load, and then we're also going to do a public bool called should load. So what we want to do here is when the player collides, we want to set should load to true, and then in our update function, we're going to say if should load is true, we want to say wait to load minus equals time dot delta time, like that. And what that's going to do is whatever we set wait to load to be, whether it be 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, as soon as this bool gets set to true, then it's going to start counting down from whatever that number is. So from here, what we want to do is, because it's going to continue to count down even past 0 and continue into the negatives, and we don't want that. So within this if check, we're going to do another if check that says if wait to load is less than or equal to 0. So when it gets to 0, then we will reload the scene. But we can't do that yet. What we need to do is up here at the top, what we're going to do is we are going to type in using Unity engine dot scene management. And that's going to give us the collection of functions to manage our scenes. So back here in this if check, we're going to say if wait to load is less than or equal to 0, then scene manager dot load scene, and the scene we want to load is going to be a new variable called public string, and we're going to call it scene to load. And then in here, we're going to just put in scene to load and end it with a semicolon. So if we save this and go back into Unity, and we go on to our enemy character, our enemy object, and scroll down to our enemy script, we're going to set the load time to 1 second, and the scene to load is going to be this scene, because we want to just restart the scene. So I'm just going to go into here and copy exactly how this is spelled and paste it in there so that it's spelled exactly the same. And then what we're going to want to do is that actually should be all. So if we hit play, run into it, it's going to sit there and wait for a second, and the scene reloads. Perfect. That is exactly what we want. So I think that's going to do it for this video. And next time what we'll do is we will create some coins for our player to pick up and create a score system for when we pick up those coins. But for now, please make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.